Rising from the rolling hills of southern France like a vision from a medieval fairy tale, lies a city frozen in time. This is Carcassonne, a fortress and castle of stones and shadows, where ancient towers echo with legends. In this video, we step beyond the gates of one of Europe's most iconic fortified cities, the medieval fortress city in southern France. It's a hike back in time and into a hidden underworld. Tucked away in the heart of southern France, just a short drive from Toulouse, or 2.5 hours drive from Barcelona, lies a city that looks like it was pulled straight from the pages of a medieval legend or popular series of Game of Thrones. Welcome to Carcassonne. We will visit the city fortress with its impressive castle and cathedral. Wander around narrow medieval streets to try local specialties like cassoulet, unique local wine, and unforgettable selection of desserts and pastries. Visit the infamous Museum of Inquisition and Torture, and then on day 2 hike into the Underworld. Let's start discovering Carcassonne from its impressive main gate. The city began as a Roman outpost in the 1st century BC, strategically placed to watch over the trade routes between the Atlantic and the Mediterranean. As centuries passed, the city grew into a fortified stronghold, playing a pivotal role during the Crusades, the Cathar Wars, and the long struggle between French and Spanish powers. Its mighty fortifications, with 52 watchtowers, were nearly lost to time, until a passionate 19th century restoration brought the city back to life, turning it into one of Europe's greatest examples of medieval military architecture. Carcassonne is the UNESCO World Heritage Site, visited by millions of tourists every year to experience firsthand a place where history, legends, and daily life blend seamlessly. In this video, we'll hike through its gates, climb its towers, explore its hidden corners, and show you why this ancient citadel, local food and wine, and the hidden underworld continue to cast its spell on travelers from around the world. Make sure you plan enough time to spend in the maze of the historic center of the city, with many hidden corners, winding arched passageways, and stone facades, historic building filled with restaurants, craft and souvenir stores, and many small museums. There is plenty to do here. Merchants once bustled here, pilgrims passed through on their way to Santiago, and soldiers patrolled these medieval streets. On a sunny day, the city is packed with tourists. So, if you can, try to stay overnight or arrive super early to hike around in the morning hours when the city gates open. As we make our way deeper into the historic heart of the city, called La Cité, the path gently climbs toward the Château Comtal, the Count's Castle, where we'll step inside the stronghold itself and walk along the fortifications surrounding the oldest part of Carcassonne. This isn't just a hike, it's a journey through walls that have withstood time, siege, and silence, and a rare chance to walk through history with your own feet. The Count's Castle, a fortress within a fortress, built to protect not just the rulers, but also the very soul of the city. If you visit in early morning hours, you can beat the crowds and enjoy wandering around the chambers and pathways, some more than 1500 years old. Crossing its bridge and entering through its fortified gate, you step into what was once the seat of noble power. Powerful families who ruled during the 12th century and beyond. Inside, the castle reveals layers of history, Roman foundations, medieval towers, the dramatic history of Cathar faith, and 19th century restoration touches that helped preserve what war and weather nearly erased. Beneath the stones of the castle lies a darker, more tragic layer of local history, the story of the Cathars. In the 12th and 13th centuries, this region was a stronghold for the Cathar faith, a Christian sect condemned as heretical by the Catholic Church and the Pope. Inside the castle chambers, you can watch a 3D projections of the entire medieval city from the Cathar times. To this day, Carcassonne is the largest and best preserved medieval fortress in Europe. In 1659, after the Treaty of the Pyrenees, the province of Roussillon became a part of France, and the city lost its military significance, resulting in its gradual abandonment. Yet the castle and its impressive fortifications survived the test of time. The castle, with its 3 kilometers of ramparts, consists of 2 walls, 52 towers, barbicans, army barracks, and the superb Gothic cathedral. It was added to the UNESCO World Heritage Sites because of its exceptional testimony to the architecture and planning of medieval fortress town. You can see the cathedral here in the distance, and we will visit it shortly after the hiking around the city fortifications. The city here and its castle has over 2,500 years of history when we consider the archaeological discoveries. It has been ruled in different ages by Roman Empire, Visigoth kings, French rulers, and crusaders. In the 4th century, the town was already described by the Romans as castellum, meaning a small fortress. The Romans built the first walls with almost 40 towers, and the fortifications were further expanded by the Visigoth rulers in the 5th and 6th century. Today, you can visit most of the towers while hiking along the fortifications surrounding the oldest part of Carcassonne. In the 11th century, the castle was further expanded, and the new cathedral, Basilica of St. Nazarius and Celsus, was blessed by the Pope. In the 13th century, Crusades unleashed brutal invasion and terror on the residents of Carcassonne and the province. The goal was to exterminate the local Christian Cathars. The ruler of the city was imprisoned while negotiating his city's surrender and died in mysterious circumstances 3 months later in his dungeon. The people of Carcassonne were allowed to leave, expelled from their city with nothing more than their shirts on their backs. What followed were decades of massacres and a Catholic Inquisition. The city submitted to the rule of the Kingdom of France in 1247. Carcassonne became a border fortress between France and the Crown of Aragon in Spain. In 1659, the Treaty of the Pyrenees transferred the border province of Roussillon to France, and Carcassonne's military significance was reduced. All of the towers and walls that you see here are original historic structure that were restored in the 19th century. It will take you at least an hour just to visit the castle itself, not counting the tour of the city fortifications after. The castle's interior isn't lavish in the modern sense. Instead, it tells stories of defense, resilience, and medieval life. You can still see the arrow slits and murder holes used to defend against attackers. These narrow corridors were built for strategy, not style. There's also a small museum inside the chateau, filled with relics from Carcassonne's past. Models showing how the city evolved, and even Roman fragments from when this site was a frontier outpost. Despite having fallen into ruin by the 19th century, the Citadel was identified as one of the greatest examples of medieval military architecture. Local architects led the restoration of the city fortifications and advocated for the recognition of Carcassonne as National Monument of France. This is one of the most visited historic sites in all of France, attracting close to 4 million visitors each year. Regardless of the exact figure, it is evident that Carcassonne stands as a premier destination for those interested in history, culture, and medieval architecture. After visiting the castle, you can continue the tour by walking down the fortification walls surrounding Carcassonne. The iconic medieval walls are fully walkable and open to visitors for the first time in a century, since 2024, spanning more than 3 kilometers and offering breathtaking 360-degree views of the city, its castle, and cathedral. While walking through the walls, you can enter most of the towers, all renovated in the recent years. The main gate tower, by far the tallest and most impressive part of fortifications, was a symbol of the king's power at the main entrance to the Citadel city. Built in the 13th century under the reign of King Louis IX, these twin towers formed a crucial part of the outer defenses of Carcassonne. With their pointed turret and arrow slits, they were designed to intimidate invaders and protect the city within. Perched atop the fortified city, wrapped in the history of centuries past, stands a sacred monument to medieval faith and Gothic beauty, the Basilica of Saints Nazarius and Celsus. Long before tourists wandered these fortifications and narrow streets below, thousands of pilgrims from across France and Europe journeyed here to visit the magnificent cathedral. The basilica dates back to the 11th century, rising from Romanesque roots and later crowned with radiant Gothic additions. This sacred space bore witness to turbulent times, the rise and fall of the Cathars, the drama of medieval Christendom. It was a place of worship, a symbol of power, and sometimes a silent witness to bloodshed. In 1703, the cathedral title was transferred to the more centrally located Saint-Michel Church. It took us about an hour to hike around the entire fortifications ring surrounding the city citadel. However, it was worth it, as it remained a unique example of entire fortification system from medieval Europe. With over 30 medieval towers open to public, many hidden chambers and passages, one could easily get lost wandering around medieval fortifications of Carcassonne. Climbing the ancient stone steps, you walk where soldiers and knights once stood, guard to defend the city, scanning the horizon for invaders. Today, your gaze falls on a gentler sight, the rolling vineyards of the province with its red-roofed villages. Justice Tower, formerly known as Inquisition Tower, was home of the Inquisition archives from the 13th century up until the French Revolution. In the 13th century, after the brutal suppression of the Cathars, Carcassonne became a center for the Inquisition. The Dominican inquisitors arrived with a mission to root out heresy. They operated in secrecy, often using imprisonment, forced confessions, and public trials. Accusation alone was enough to seal one's fate. To walk the walls of Carcassonne is to trace the rise of this magnificent city, the fall of its rulers, and the resilience of memory. A place where the past speaks if we're willing to listen. We will now walk through the old town, narrow streets to head to medieval cathedral and visit its interiors. The Basilica, originally constructed in the 11th century, it was once Carcassonne's cathedral. The site has been a sanctuary since early Christian times. Tourists can enter for free, with limitations only during religious ceremonies. The stained glass here, some of the oldest in southern France. These paintings date back to the 13th century, casting stories of saints and martyrs in shimmering light across the stone floor. The Basilica stands as a testament to resilience, architectural beauty, and sacred tradition. Whether you're a seeker of history, architecture, or simply wonder, this temple offers all three under a single stone roof with raw yet elegant interiors. Listen closely, and you might hear the faint echoes of Gregorian chants. As you hike along the outer path of the fortifications, the medieval city fades behind you, and you can discover alleys in between two walls surrounding Carcassonne. The path itself is easy to follow, underneath the monumental towers and impressive city walls overlooking the southern French landscape and the lower town. The lower town was constructed in late medieval centuries after expulsion of Cathars and residents of Carcassonne. Here is a hike on the outer side of the majestic city walls. Just beyond the mighty walls of Carcassonne, past the souvenir shops and cobbled paths, lies a quieter story, one that doesn't shout, but whispers. This is the ancient cemetery of Carcassonne. Tucked in the shadow of the Citadel, it's a resting place for generations who once lived and died beneath these medieval fortifications. There is no grand tour here, no ticket booth, only silence. The cemetery reflects the town's long, layered past. Some graves date back to the 1800s, others are more recent. Catholic symbols dominate, but here and there, different faiths and forgotten names quietly coexist. Encircling the Citadel city like a protective embrace, these massive double walls stretch nearly 3 kilometers. Each stone, each tower, tells a story of invasion, resistance, and resilience, and its gate lead paths to the newer part of town, the lower town. Dating back to the late Middle Ages, it was founded by the expelled residents of Carcassonne after the Crusades against Cathars, and it has been the economic heart of the city for centuries. Here is another hike outside of the fortifications leading to the historic bridge in the lower town of Carcassonne. Built in the 14th century, the Old Bridge once served as the only link between the fortified upper town of Carcassonne and the bustling lower town across the river. Just imagine merchants, pilgrims, and knights crossing here already over 700 years ago. Today, it is one of the most popular tourist spots to capture the grandeur of the fortified Carcassonne on the hill. Just before the dinner time, the streets of Carcassonne get a bit less crowded, so you can enjoy the walk around medieval streets and visit some local stores. Or the Inquisition Museum, a chilling reminder of a time when fear and faith collided, and justice wore a mask of brutality. This region was once home to the Cathars, a religious group deemed heretical by the Catholic Church. And in the 13th century, what followed was the Crusade, and with it, the birth of the medieval Inquisition. This museum is dedicated to that chapter of history. Here, you'll find instruments of torment used to extract confessions. Each one tells a story how fear was weaponized in the name of salvation. The museum consists of 2 buildings, including a prison. It's a sobering walk through the corridors of fanaticism, and a lesson that the past, if ignored, has a way of repeating itself. We're back to the old town to try 2 local specialities, wine from local vineyards and a regional stew. The cassoulet is a dish as rich in history as the city itself. Legend says the dish was born during a siege, when townsfolk pooled what little they had to create a nourishing feast, and the result was this timeless comfort food. We are going to try it in a local traditional restaurant, just opposite to the Museum of Inquisition. With wide variety of local wine selection, you can ask for recommendation. And if Chateau Sesquières is still available, I certainly recommend that one. Cassoulet is a slow-cooked, hearty, and deeply satisfying rustic stew made with white beans, duck confit, pork sausages, and sometimes lamb. In Carcassonne, it's more than food. It's simply a grand tradition. To wrap up the tour of Carcassonne, stay until the evening and explore the city and its medieval fortifications at midnight. When night falls, the real magic begins, when you wander around the fortifications and its towers glowing in light. It's like stepping into a medieval fairy tale. Definitely a must when visiting, so make sure you extend your visit at least until the early evening. Next day, early in the morning, a walk through entirely deserted old town. Most people live outside of the fortifications, so until local stores and museums open, you get a chance to see a ghosted medieval town. And for morning coffee and breakfast, highly recommend La Boulangerie de la Cité, with wide variety of regional pastries and croissants and freshly brewed coffee. We're going to visit one of Europe's most spectacular natural wonders, just 20 minutes drive outside of Carcassonne fortifications. majestic caves stretching for kilometers in the depths of the Black Mountain Forest. It is called the Gouffre Géant de Cabrespine. To get to the Giant Chasm cave, you need to get into the heart of the Black Mountain Forest and then hike just a bit. Deep beneath the rolling hills of Occitanie province, there lies a hidden world underneath those forests, an immense underground cathedral sculpted by nature over millions of years. Entrance tickets needs to be booked for a specific time, so best if you book online in advance. However, you can also buy at the main entrance subject to availability and limitations. And now, the grand finale of this journey. The central chamber stretches 80 meters wide and plummets an astonishing 250 meters deep. The vast network of caves stretches for kilometers beneath the earth. It's a journey into the deep underworld. Formed over millions of years by underground rivers, the cave is a world sculpted by nature's slow hand. You can wander through vast chambers and narrow galleries where stalactites and stalagmites glisten like jewels. And if you seek more adventures, there's even underground climbing and ziplining, and a guided tour through underground riverbeds and tunnels. A true journey to the center of the earth. That hike you need to book in advance and may last more than 3 hours. Whether you seek natural beauty or a thrill beneath the surface, This giant cave offers an unforgettable glimpse into a hidden world. It is a hidden gem, just outside of Carcassonne. And while not easily accessible for many, it is worth a trip. So reserve enough time to explore this underworld, and then hike through the Black Mountain Forest for some spectacular panoramic views of local valleys. Tucked within this underground, a hidden treasure, wine cellars. Thanks to the cave's cool, constant temperature and humidity, local wines age gracefully here, developing rich, complex flavors. You can taste and buy some bottles in the store above the ground. With this natural wonder, we wrap up our visit to the region of Carcassonne. For any specific information to plan your hike and make the most of your visit here, drop comments and questions below. Here is the last glimpse of the underworld. And see you again in the next hiking video.